Hello everyone, my name is Olivia, and in honor of International Women's Day, I wanted to share with you some stunning novels written by women. And to celebrate International Women's Day and the beauty of women all around the world, I have an amazing Redbubble haul to show you before we get into the book recommendations. So this is like a haul/book recommendations video. So let's kick it over to future Olivia, who will have an amazing haul to show you. Hello! Today I am working with Redbubble to celebrate Women's History Month and women's empowerment in general. If you don't know what Redbubble is, it's basically a website where you can buy a ton of different merch from independent artists all over the world. There you can find thousands upon thousands of designs that relate to your interests or relate to your friends' interests, and you can put them on mugs, t-shirts, socks, so many different things, and Redbubble was one of my favorite places to go to get gifts for my friends or to get gifts for myself to give myself something nice. So to celebrate Women's History Month, I have a lot of different Redbubble designs on different products that I want to show you that are made by women all around the world, and I just love them so much. So the first design that I want to show you is one that I'm actually wearing and I am obsessed with it. It is a skeleton with a cup of coffee, and at the bottom of the t-shirt it says "Trying my best." And I also got a couple of things for my friends to celebrate Women's History Month and to celebrate our friendship, so I want to show you a couple of those designs because not only is Women's History Month a great way to educate yourself about the power of women, but it's also a great way to show your appreciation for the women in your life. So that's what I did with my friends and my mom as well. So one thing that I got from my best friend Camille is a space type of poster. My friend just recently moved and I think this is going to fit beautifully in her house, and I also just really love the glossy design. It makes it really fancy. Then I got a panda crew neck for my friend who loves pandas. Here I have a really fun geometric print of a bunch of different faces, which I think is beautiful. I also got a t-shirt that says Society of Badass Women official member. I previously got this on a water bottle from Redbubble when I worked with them last year for Women's History Month, but I wanted it on a t-shirt, and I'm thinking I'm gonna crop this t-shirt because I think it'll look really cool, and I like how it has like the button effect, and it just is very simple but is also really cute. For my mom, I got her another pair of socks because she loves them so much from Redbubble. So I got her one with a bunch of women with curly hair on it because my mom has really curly hair, and I think she's going to love this because it's not only colorful, but it also relates to her. For my pen pal Leah, I got her a monstera being held by a cat. She has a cat, and she also said that the monstera really reminds her of me, and that is just really cute because I love our friendship and I just appreciate Leah so much. I also have a really fun pillow design. It's of a record, but it's also like the moon against the horizon. And lastly, it is not a Redbubble haul if I do not get stickers and postcards, which are some of my favorite things to get from Redbubble. So here we have a couple of designs of women. This one says, "Be the person your 8-year-old self would be proud of." And then I have a cute little witchy design. And then for 2 postcards, I have one that says "You are enough," that I cannot wait to send to my friend, just spontaneously to remind them that I appreciate them. And then because I loved that monstera design so much, I had to get it on a postcard, and I think it's really cute. So those are all the things that I got from Redbubble this month to celebrate Women's History Month and to support some independent artists who are women from all around the world. If you want to get yourself something, or a friend something, or a family member something in order to celebrate Women's History Month, all the designs that I showed you will be linked down below, and you can use that link to go to Redbubble to get yourself something really cute or to get a loved one something really cute. I really love Redbubble and I've been using them I think since high school, so I just highly recommend them, and I'm so grateful to them for sponsoring this video. So let's get back to Olivia so she can recommend you some amazing books written by women. Welcome back. Let's get into the recommendations video, and let's start out with some contemporary novels that are beautifully written and are written by women. The first novel that I have to recommend is Transcendent Kingdom. This is a beautiful yet heartbreaking novel following our main character Gifty, who is trying to hold her family together as she grows up and grows older. It says it is a novel about a Ghanaian family in the contemporary South, at once a profound story about race in America and an astonishingly intimate intimate portrait of a young woman reckoning spiritually and intellectually with the legacy of unmanageable loss. So this follows our main character, Gifty, who is dealing with the death of her brother who died from a heroin overdose. She is a PhD candidate and she is studying the science behind depression and addiction. But while she is studying that, she's also dealing with her mother who is bedridden by the depression and grief of losing her son, and she is very religious compared to Gifty. Gifty is much more scientific based, but she's also reckoning with the fact that she grew up in a very religious household, and due to that religious trauma, she is trying to kind of reckon with it now as an adult. I feel like if you love the song Surface Pressure from Encanto, you would greatly love this novel because it deals with an older daughter who is carrying the weight of her family. She is dealing with the religion that was thrust upon her as a young child. She is dealing with the grief of losing her brother, and she is trying to hold her family together all by herself. This is just such a multifaceted story that is so beautifully written. The prose is amazing. The audiobook is also completely fantastic. So if you're ever looking for something that deals a lot with religion, that deals a lot with grief and the relationship between a mother and a daughter and how that can be strained throughout the years but also heal, then you would greatly enjoy it. Transcendent Kingdom. It's such a beautiful novel. Another contemporary story that I have to recommend to you is the Fleabag play. I don't think that many people know that Fleabag was originally, I think, a one-act play by Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and she did it all by herself. It's a one-woman act, and it is such a fantastic play for people who love Fleabag and for people who want to read about a very flawed character. She is dealing with a lot of different things, and it's a very short introduction to the story that is later the show, and it does finish off a little bit quicker than I would like, but I think it's a great introduction into the concept of Fleabag if you have not watched the show. So I think reading the play would be a good introduction to it, and then you could dive into the show because the show is only 2 seasons, so it's fantastic. Now let's move on to nonfictions that I have to recommend. A beautifully written nonfiction that I have to recommend is Crying in H-Mart. Crying in H-Mart is a beautifully written memoir by Michelle who chronicles her life as a Korean American woman, her strained relationship to her mother who is from Korea, and how they have very different lives and very different opinions, and how she eventually finds herself as a person and finds her circle, her found family, and just herself. Michelle is just a wonderfully talented writer. Her nonfiction feels somewhat like fiction in itself because it just flows so beautifully, and I know a lot of people get hesitant to go into memoirs if they don't really know the person. I didn't know the person at all. Michelle is actually the lead singer for Japanese Breakfast, which is a really cool indie band, and she just writes in such a beautiful way that explores the complexity of a mother-daughter relationship. It explores the different facets of grief and how you can grieve someone as they are still alive, and it also deals with the fact that she is trying to explore her Korean heritage as a Korean American and how that's very different from people who live in Korea, and that diaspora is just so well explored. It is so beautiful and relatable to children of immigrants, and I think that this story is just so well written. It is so beautiful, it is so heartbreaking, it'll inspire you but also make you cry, and it's also being turned into a movie, I believe, which is just amazing. I cannot wait to see that explored. I think it has the opportunity to be such a powerful film that a lot of people will enjoy, so if you want to read it before the movie comes out, go pick it up. A nonfiction that is much more educational that I would highly recommend is Hood Feminism. Hood Feminism really explores the fault of modern day feminism and how it can be much more intersectional and much more inclusive. So it says it explores that mainstream feminism rarely talks about meeting basic needs as a feminist issue, but food insecurity, access to quality education, safe neighborhoods, a living wage, and medical care are all inherently feminist issues. So Mikki Kendall really explores those different issues, and she explores how mainstream feminism is not intersectional enough, but it could be. So she offers her own insight into her own experiences as a Black woman and the different situations that she's been in where she noticed that feminism is inherently white and it has to be intersectional in order to actually garner actual change. And I just think that this nonfiction is so important for those who are learning about feminism, those who are feminists, and those who want to learn about how to better the world around them, how to help those around them. And I think that Mikki Kendall offers endless insight, and I'm just so grateful for her words, for her knowledge, and it is just a nonfiction that I think everyone should read at some point in their life. It is completely fantastic. Now let's move on to my favorite genre, which is historical fiction. One historical fiction that has taken the world by storm that I have to recommend is The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. The Vanishing Half follows twin sisters who run away at the age of 16 from their Black community and live very separate lives. One twin sister ended up back in the town that she tried to escape with her Black daughter, and the other sister lives in a white community and she is passing as white and does not want anyone else to know that she is secretly Black. But once their two daughters eventually connect with one another and find out that they are related but live two very separate lives, these two sisters have to deal with the fact that they chose very different paths in life, and those paths created domino effects that eventually affect their daughters today. The Vanishing Half just really explores how one single decision can change your life forever and how you can live a lie and have to maintain that lie, but eventually it's going to fall apart. And I just think it is so well done. It really shows the contrast between the two sisters and how their lives are completely different due to the choices that they made, and I think it's just fantastic. It's totally worth the hype, and also the audiobook is fantastic. Another beautifully written historical fiction that I have to recommend is The Mad Women's Ball by Victoria Mass, and it takes place in an actual French asylum in the 1800s. So we follow two different main characters. We follow Genevieve, who is a senior nurse at this asylum, and she is taking care of all the women who are trapped inside it. And then we follow Eugenie, who has a very particular gift where she is able to talk to spirits. And once she tells someone in her family that she's able to do that, they are horrified by that power and they think that she is corrupted by the devil. So they send her to this asylum to disown her and kind of put her away and put her out of mind because she is different from others in society. So the Mad Women's Ball explores Eugenie as she is forced into this asylum against her will, and she is eventually trying to escape it with the help of Genevieve. The Mad Women's Ball is not only an incredibly short read that I think you could read in one sitting, but it's also a very eye-opening read. It really highlights the fact that society saw these particular women as problems, and in order to deal with these problems, they just put them into this asylum, considered them mad, and treated them so horribly for probably the rest of their life. It really taught me about a piece of history that I did not know about beforehand, and it was also adapted into an Amazon Prime movie, which I still have to finish. I still have not finished it yet, but it is absolutely fantastic. It is very true to the story. It's a little bit more experimental. It's a little bit more gritty in terms of showcasing the violence in this asylum, but I think it's absolutely fantastic. So not only do you have a book recommendation, but you also have a movie recommendation. Another beautifully written historical fiction that I have to recommend is The Girls in the Picture. This takes place in Old Hollywood following Frances Marion and Mary Pickford. Mary Pickford is one of the most famous silent movie stars of all time, and Frances Marion is one of the most famous screenwriters of silent movies of all time. So this novel really explores the friendship between Frances Marion and Mary Pickford as they are gaining fame in Old Hollywood and kind of blazing a new trail in an industry that is dominated by men. If you are interested in Old Hollywood, if you are interested in the silent movie era, I would highly recommend this book because it is so fascinating to read about these two very famous women who kind of changed the world of Hollywood. And while this is fictionalized, it's very interesting to read about the friendship of Frances Marion and Mary Pickford because they are two completely different women in terms of personality. So watching these two personalities clash and kind of exploring the journey of their career is just very fascinating for someone who loves movies so much. So if you love movies, if you love historical fiction, I feel like this is a very underrated read, and I also think the audiobook was phenomenal. The last category that I want to highlight is mythology. So one book that I have to recommend is The Silence of the Girls by Pat Barker. The Silence of the Girls is a book set in the midst of literature's most famous war. Pat Barker turns her attention to the timeless legend of the Iliad as experienced by the captured women living in the Greek camp during the final weeks of the Trojan War. So this follows our main character Briseis, who was captured by Achilles' army, and she is his prisoner. And this novel really chronicles the Trojan War from the perspective of Briseis, who sees Achilles not as a hero but as a villain. For fans of the Song of Achilles, I feel like The Silence of the Girls is a much darker retelling. It really showcases the mistreatment of women in these camps and also the dark effects that war takes on both sides. I really loved Briseis as a character because she was just so strong-willed. She just really did not hold back in terms of her internal monologue and just kind of talking about these men who she's surrounded by in such a dark manner. I think it did a really good job at exploring that, and I just think it was so beautiful. And what initially caught my eye was the cover. I think the cover is just absolutely stunning, and I know that they recently changed it, and I do not like the new cover, so I'm really sad if you have to get the new cover because this one just kicks it out of the park in terms of covers. And the last book that I have to recommend is a book that I'm sure so many of you have read, but I want to recommend it either way, and it is Circe by Madeline Miller. Circe is a witch who is eventually outcasted because she performed a spell that kind of threatened the gods around her, and they began to see her as an enemy, so they banished her to an island to live by herself for the rest of her life. But while she's banished to this island, she grows in power and she learns more about her magic, and eventually people come across her island and she deals with the fact that humans can be both good but also evil, and there's a lot of complexity there. Circe is constantly having to protect herself and learn more about the humans and the gods around her and how there are a lot of secrets and lies and deception, and it's just such a beautifully written novel. Madeline Miller just has a way with her words. This novel just feels like gold and sunshine, and it's just so beautiful. There's just no other way I can describe it. I feel like there's no other book that I can compare this to. If you have not read Circe before, I would highly recommend it because the writing is just absolutely stunning, and the story is also really cool because I have never read about Circe before because I did not read the Odyssey. So this is my first time learning about her personality, learning about her story, and it was just so good. So those are some stunning novels written by women to celebrate International Women's Day. I loved all these novels so much. They are just all so beautiful in their own way, exploring what it's like to be a woman in a fantasy world, in a contemporary setting, in a real life setting like nonfiction, and it just makes me so happy that all these books impacted me in different ways. So I would love if you can comment down below some of your favorite novels written by women so we can get some amazing recommendations in the comment section. And thank you so much to Redbubble for sponsoring this video. If you want to check out all the designs that I got from Redbubble, be sure to click the link in my bio. If you want to connect with me anywhere else on social media, all my links will be down below if you want to follow me on Instagram or TikTok. And thank you so much for spending your time with me. I appreciate it, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Bye!